We have been going almost for 4 out of the 6 weeks this year. In the 2025 NFL season, we've gone 3 for 5 in best bets. The one week I went 4 for 5, and one other week I did go 2 for 5. So that actually evens it out to 3 for 5 anyway. So at this point in the season, this is where we are at. We are 17 for, or excuse me, we are 18 for 30. I apologize. 18 for 30 in best bets. Last year we were 17 for 30, so we're one game better than we were a year ago in the money line. Now, because of bye weeks, this is where, talking about week 14, the numbers are going to be a little bit skewed. So last year, there was approximately 92 games played during the first 6 weeks of the season. We went 57 and 35. This year, there's been one more game because last year we had we had 4 buys during week 6. This year we only had 2 with the Texans and the Vikings. And this year in the money line going into week 7, we are 62 and 31. So that's 4 games better in the loss column than we were at this point a year ago. This week is a very interesting week. It's a very tricky week. I feel like I know who's going to win the games. I have no idea who to take in these spreads. I have never struggled so much at week 7, 40%, if you will, for the NFL season and trying to decide who should I take. Part of it is because I want to take my Eagles. I want to take my hometown Browns, but I don't want to jinx them. I don't want to look like an idiot. And if I get the rest of the bets right that I do feel comfortable about, and the Eagles and Browns don't cover, then I'm going to be double mad, especially if they lose. So I'm going to stay away from both those teams this week. But let's get into it. Week 7, Steelers at Bengals, Thursday night. It's a divisional game. Steelers are favored by 5.5. And last week at home, coming out their bye, I felt great about Pittsburgh. 5.5 at home against Cleveland. This week now, short week on the road at Cincinnati. Mike Tomlin is making comments about Andrew Berry trading Joe Flacco away to the division, and I am nervous about Pittsburgh covering 5.5 because I feel like these Thursday games are weird. I feel like the Steelers are going to win, but I think the Bengals always play the Steelers tough. This could be a shootout. This could be a 13-10 game. I have no feel of what this game is going to be. Joe Flacco, even though he didn't move the ball great, he found a way to get 20 targets out of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I think that's an encouraging side moving forward. I don't know if they're going to be able to score a lot of points, but I do know this. Joe Flacco has played the Steelers numerous times to know what they're going to bring on defense. I think they will find a way to move the ball. I think Cincinnati is a more desperate team here. They're trying to save their season. I always think at home you have an advantage on Thursday night. I believe the only team this year to win on the road on Thursday night. I could be wrong on this, but I know the Niners won on the road during week 5. Oh, Seattle, week 4 as well. So Seattle and the Niners, the only 2 teams to win on the road on Thursday night this year. Will Pittsburgh follow suit? I believe so. I just don't know about the line. London games are weird. Listen, I want to take Jacksonville +3. I think that the Jaguars are going to win this game outright. Puka Nacua, it sounds like, is not going to play for the LA Rams. I want Jacksonville +3, but I'm a chicken about it, man. London games are weird, and I knew last week I should have taken the Jets plus whatever it was, 7, I think it was, against Denver. I feel like I really want to take Jacksonville +3 here. My issue is, if I look like an idiot and the Jags defense is not very good, and Matthew Stafford comes out and he's slinging the ball all over the place, and the Rams win in London, then my best bet chance of hitting the 5 for 5 is ruined before we even get to the 1 o'clock window. So that's part of it this week. Is it's like I'm trying to follow trends, right? Jacksonville gets embarrassed pretty much by Seattle. They don't play well. They have an emotional win against Kansas City, so they're going to have a letdown against Seattle. That I understand. Now, how do they respond going across the pond? Well, for the Rams, they didn't look that good against Baltimore, but boy, did they turn it on in the second half. We'll have to see how a full game without Puka Nacua affects the offense. Mostly, these are two good teams. Jaguars are maybe a playoff team. The Rams are for sure a playoff team. I just want to enjoy the game. And then Philly at Minnesota. It sounds like this is going to be Carson Wentz on the bump, if you will, for the Minnesota Vikings, taking on his former team in the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Eagles are favored by 2.5 points. And this is one of those situations where I think the Eagles are the better team, but I think Brian Flores, with his blitzing aggressive mentality, is going to cause some issues potentially for this Eagles offensive line, who did go for a mini bye week. And Kevin Patullo, the offensive coordinator, has stressed the importance of first and second down efficiency, so they're not in third and long all game long. I thought the offense, again, outside of scoring in the second half, I thought they played pretty well. There was a couple mistakes there by Jalen Hurts and A.J. Dillon. I think this Eagles team is really struggling on the back end. Sounds like there's a good chance no Quinyon Mitchell in this game. So it's going to be Kiwi Ringo and Adoree Jackson taking out Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and those Vikings receivers. That's the matchup that worries me. The question is going to be, can this Eagles defensive line get pressure on the former number two overall pick in the 2016 draft out of North Dakota State enough to make the difference? I'm going to pick my Eagles to win. We haven't been to Minnesota since 2019. We did win a Super Bowl in this stadium before U.S. Bank Stadium, but I think it's a really close game. And then the funny thing about this Dolphins Browns game is I want to take the Browns. I think the Browns are actually better than Miami. I think their defense plays extraordinary at home. I think they can win this game like 13-10 and cover the 2.5. But I think this is a loser gets fired game between Mike McDaniel and Kevin Stefanski. I certainly do think the Browns have more talent on the defense side of the ball than Miami does for their whole team. But Browns fans are convinced the Dolphins are winning this game and blowing out the Browns. Dolphins fans are convinced the Browns are winning this game and blowing out the Dolphins. I look at this as a line of scrimmage game. I know Miami has been playing better than the Browns as of late, but I think this is one of those wins where Kevin Stefanski is a two-time coach of the year. The Browns may have had, unlike other people like myself, expectations for this season. The defense has played very well at home. They've technically played three home games, only two of them, though, being in Huntington Bank Field, the other one being in London against the Vikings. So they've not seen truly their hometown fans since week three, and they're going to be fired up for the occasion. Now, New England at Tennessee. This is one where if Brian Callahan was still the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, I would hammer New England -7 because I think they'd win by a touchdown. When there is an interim head coach, and I know this team is bad, but there's something about that first game interim head coach, Mike McCoy, being the man for the Tennessee Titans, that I'm like, you know what? Anything can happen. I'm even going to stay away from this as my survivor pick because I think there is a world out there where Tennessee upsets New England. Mike Vrabel coming back to Tennessee, you know those players are going to want to play hard for Vrabel, but a lot of those players for Tennessee are hearing the noise, how bad they are. Mike Vrabel's coming back to town. Oh my God, what a mistake it was to get rid of Mike Vrabel. Which that roster was in complete teardown. Now maybe they can start tearing down the roster with a new head coach and put some pieces around Cam Ward. But this is a weird game. You know, there are one, two, let's see. Hold on one second here. We're doing this live, folks. There are this week one, two, three, four, five, six games in the 1 o'clock window. I will tell you right now, the games are Dolphins, Browns, Patriots, Titans, Panthers, Jets are three of the ugliest games I think you could have all season long. I think Eagles, Vikings, and Bears, Saints can get ugly too. Raiders, Chiefs, 11.5 point spread. Basically, Vegas is saying the only two good teams that are playing this week in the 1 o'clock window are the Eagles and Vikings. So good luck to all of us. And I was going to take the Jets. They're one of my favorite bets of the week originally, +1.5 to go in and upset Carolina. But the Garrett Wilson injury completely changed all that. Listen, Bryce Young does not play well on the road. The Panthers have not won on the road. They've not lost at home. That is a trend, and I think if there is a chance for the Jets to win a ball game, it would have been this week. They got embarrassed in London by the way the offensive line played. Carolina did not have a great pass rush outside of Derek Brown. You expected Justin Fields to have time, but without Garrett Wilson, who the hell is he going to throw the ball to? And I do think this is a very defensive, low scoring game. Whoever does not turn the ball over will win the game. I think Carolina, just with Ted McMillan and really him and Xavier Legette, maybe they find a way to put together more big plays and get just a tiny bit more separation of yardage on offense than the Jets. But this is an ugly game. Panthers win. This is my survivor pick, and this is my first best bet of the week. I'm taking the Bears. I was nervous about it because Monday night, short week, emotional victory at Washington. Is there a pullback? Probably, but this is the Dennis Allen revenge game. Dennis Allen, former head coach of the New Orleans Saints. This game is in Chicago, but he's playing his former team, obviously, who fired him, at the end of the year. They were not a very good team in New Orleans. By the way, he's going to know how to attack Spencer Rattler because he watched him at the end of last year be complete garbage for the Saints. Um, I don't know. I think Ben Johnson comes in. I think this could be very similar to what the Lions have done to bad teams in the past. Run the football, play action pass, be very comfortable, expose Brandon Staley's man defensive coverage, and the Bears win this thing comfortably. I know it's a Monday night emotional win, short week. Chicago may come out not as ready to play, but I think by the end of this, the Bears will end up covering 5.5. I think they'll win by at least a touchdown is my watching. And then Raiders at the Chiefs. Listen, Vegas is a weird team. I thought they were going to be a 10-win playoff team this year. That's clearly not the case. They're 2-4 with their wins over the Patriots and the Titans. Some weeks they look great. Other weeks they get their doors blown off them. Kansas City looked great Sunday night against Detroit. They're back at home. They're favored by 11.5, which that always, as a divisional game, worries me. I'm not as much of a nut to take the Raiders plus 11.5, though I kind of want to, because I think Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly, they'll try to run the ball with Ashton Genty. They'll do ball control. I think they'll do something to limit Kansas City's possessions on offense. Don't let them get up on the game early. Because if the Chiefs do get up early, this thing will be a rout very quickly. There's a world where the Raiders make it close, at least in the first half, and there's a world where this thing is over by halftime. I don't have a good feel for it. Chiefs will definitely win. Stay away from betting. I will take Denver, though. They played like trash and they won against the Jets. Now they can refocus. They're coming back home for the first time and since week 4, since they beat down the Bengals on that Monday night. They're taking on a Giants team who, yes, had 10 days to prepare, but they're coming off an emotional victory. Jackson Dart now is going to make his second career road start and easily face the best defense he's faced all season. I don't think the Giants' offensive line is going to be able to protect Jackson Dart. I like Denver to win by at least a touchdown. At worst, I think they'll push. I'd take a -7. Then I like Indy plus 1.5. I think they upset a Charger team that is still beat up and barely beat the Dolphins last week. I think the Colts, listen, good to great teams in this league. They have some weeks that scare you. They have some weeks where they don't play great. Arizona's a weird team. They're in every game. Indianapolis has already played in SoFi this year, and they should have beat the Rams in LA. I think DeForest Buckner, Kwity Paye, that Indianapolis pass rush on defense is what is the difference. They make Justin Herbert uncomfortable without his two tackles out there at offensive line. Whether or not Quinton Johnson plays or not is the big question. But in my opinion, even if he does, I think this Colts offense, Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, we saw with the mobility of Jaden Daniels to them a couple weeks ago. Miami moved the ball on this team. The Chargers are not playing at their peak the way they did the first 3 weeks of the season. I think Indianapolis finds a way to go in there. Jonathan Taylor has a big game and they upset the Chargers. I'm not taking them to win. Now, I've been successful at this year where I've taken underdogs to cover at the very least, but not win. How is Arizona a 6.5 point dog? I know Kyler Murray may not play. I know they've lost four in a row after starting 2-0. But Arizona, they lost at the buzzer to San Francisco. They lose at the buzzer against Seattle. Um, they essentially lose to the buzzer against the Indianapolis Colts. They lose at the buzzer to Tennessee in week 5. This team is always in games. They will compete for one possession. Their games come down to a kick, a play here or there. Green Bay has not looked the same to me since the week 2 win against the Commanders on that Thursday night. Since they went to Cleveland, they have not played that great. Cincinnati, they turned it on a little bit in the second half, but their defense still gave them a long drive to Joe Flacco. I think going from the east to the west coast, 3 hours, your sort of 1 o'clock body time, yes. But, or excuse me, it would be a 2 o'clock start because they're in Glendale, Arizona, mountain time. But this is a tricky game for Jordan Love. Yes, it's in a dome. Yes, Matthew Golden and those Green Bay receivers could be flying around. But Green Bay is historically not had great success in Arizona. Again, I think this Cardinals team, I don't think they win, but I think they find a way to cover 6.5. Then Washington at Dallas. Both these teams coming off 2 losses. For Washington at home to Chicago, for Dallas at Carolina, trying to maintain pace with Philadelphia in the NFC East. And I'm going to go based off what I said in the preseason, which is Dallas. And again, this is without CeeDee Lamb, which I think is going to make Marshawn Lattimore's job a lot easier. Even though he's not the same corner as he once was, I think he could do somewhat of a decent job on George Pickens, at least limit the big plays down the field. And I think Jaden Daniels is more special than Dak Prescott at this point. As good as the Cowboys' offense is, their defense is what is the Achilles heel of this team. And I think Jaden Daniels will pick apart Matt Eberflus's zone. I think the Commanders go into AT&T Stadium and pick up the dub. Atlanta and San Francisco. Yes, the Niners are all banged up. They have no players on defense. Sounds like Ricky Pearsall may be getting healthy. He may play Sunday night, but we don't know that for sure yet. They're out there with, Kendrick Bourne and Jawan Jennings, and obviously McCaffrey's out there. Sounds like Kittle could be back in a couple weeks. Maybe Brock Purdy even returns for this game. Atlanta and Jeff Ulbrich have been sending blitzes. They have blitzed the most out of anybody in the NFL this year. But Jeff Ulbrich was calling the defense for the Jets week 1 a year ago when they went to San Francisco and got stomped. Atlanta had a very emotional win Monday night at home against Buffalo. I think they come back down to earth. They are a different team in a dome versus outside of a dome. This is obviously outside in Santa Clara. Again, I don't feel great about it, but I think San Francisco wins this game. Now we go to the 2 Monday night doubleheaders. I wanted to take the Lions minus 5.5 because I think the Lions are good at home. I think they lost to Kansas City on a Sunday night. Dan Campbell's going to refocus the team. Tampa Bay is very beat up. Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka are not going to play in this game. But then I thought, you know what? Tampa Bay's in a one-score game no matter what. And it'd be risky to take Detroit minus 5.5 because they may cover. They may win by 7 or 8. But the Bucks went to Detroit last year in week 2. Now they did have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin healthy at the time. But they did go in there and they held the Lions offense down to 16 points and they did beat the Lions. So that gave me a little bit of a pause. I was thinking Villa and that crew is going to do a good job up front of that Lions run game. I think Todd Bowles is going to do a little bit of disguising. And I think Tampa's going to find a way to make this close. So I want the Lions to win. I think they bounce back. I just think the injuries are going to be too much at this point going into Detroit for Tampa to overcome. but I like the Lions to win. And then I'm going to take Seattle in my best bets. My final best bet, I'm taking them -3.5 against the Texans. Yes, I know Houston's coming out their bye, but it's a Monday night late game. This is a double-header case where it's the 10 o'clock game. So 7 o'clock Seattle time. This is not, the 8:15 and 7:15 kickoff start. And the way Seattle's defensive line is playing, they've gotten the most hits on the quarterback out of any team this season. Sam Darnold is playing well. It's very interesting to see that Jackson Smith and Jigba, Derek Stingley, wide receiver DB matchup. But I think Seattle's defensive line is the edge in this game. They make too many hits on CJ Stroud and the Texans for them to be able to protect. Seattle is able to run the football, play action with Darnold. They look good again. Seahawks win by at least 4. They cover the 3.5. So, with that, to recap, I do have Pittsburgh over Cincinnati, Jacksonville over the Rams in London, Philly over Minnesota, Cleveland over Miami, New England over Tennessee, the Panthers over the Jets, Chicago over New Orleans, Kansas City over Vegas, the Giants, or excuse me, Denver over the Giants, Indy over the Chargers, Green Bay over Arizona, Washington over Dallas, San Francisco over Atlanta, Detroit over Tampa, and Seattle over Houston. Now, my 5 best bets for week 7 of the 2025 NFL season are: I like the Bears to cover 5.5 at home against the Saints. I like Denver at home as well to cover 7, touchdown favorite against Jackson Dart and the New York Football Giants. I like the Colts +1.5. I think that they upset the Chargers in LA. I don't think they're going to win, but they play all one possession games. I think they find a way to make it close. I think Arizona covers 6.5 against Green Bay. And finally, I think Seattle Monday night late 10 o'clock Eastern start time. Like that clip from the Brand's World podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. While you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brand's World podcast right here on YouTube.